in your main deck to begin with. So it makes sense to me the way Hunterace has built it. But like you said, that stealth aspect of the halftime scavenger is so huge because it kind of counterplays how Rogue have built their deck, which is they play early pressure with Fairy Dragons or whatever else, and then because you're under so much pressure, you have to play a minion early. You feel like you have to, drop a giant on 4 or whatever if you have it, but then they have the Walk the Plank or the Vendetta combo or whatever it is to remove that giant and kind of steal away all your initiative with Conjurer's Calling potential. So the stealth minion with Halftime Scavenger is what makes that so crucial.
I am very intrigued by this Van Cleef keep on the play. I've seen a lot of people keep Van Cleef almost ubiquitously across the board when you have the coin. But with when you're going first, you have less cards. You obviously don't have the coin. But it's interesting that Seiko prioritizes that. And I mean, there's a theory behind it. Like Van Cleef is just often one of your best cards in Rogue, period. Do you think specifically in this matchup it's really crucial to have?
I'm actually a little surprised by it too, to be honest. I think, he's put Fairy Dragons and so on in his deck. I think I would personally be mulliganing a bit more aggressively for those cards to get the pressure rolling. He does pick up the Backstab to go along with it, and now a Vendetta as well, which could be discounted to 0 in the near future. It looks like he might get paid out for it if he finds a Burgle card off the top in the near future.
Yeah, and Hunterace, if he plays a 2-health minion early, can get punished, but this is not that kind of matchup. Usually play like the Sorcerer's Apprentice early if you feel like your opponent's going to rush you down, or you need to get that tempo preemptively and you can't get punished by it. Like Warriors, for example, don't have many options on 3 to remove the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and that gives you an option to really burst them down early with some powerful plays.
Right.
That being said, I've had my fair share of testing this matchup, specifically against Admirable, and I played Sorcerer's Apprentice on 2 a lot. And that ended up helping me win the matchup, but there was a little bit of a more aggressively teched Rogue deck with like more Eviscerates, for example.
Okay. So Hunterace has a decent little collection of things that he wants in the matchup. He does have double halftime scavenger. The Banana Buffoon can be weak in the matchup. There's a reason why it's one of the cards that does bite the dust for those halftime scavengers. The second copy of Banana Buffoon is usually going out alongside the Archmage Antonidas. But the rest of his hand is looking pretty solid just in terms of being able to fight for tempo, quite honestly, quite unmage-like in the way that he'll try and fight off the tempo from Seiko.
Yeah, the danger of playing the Banana Buffoon is also enabling Seiko's combos. If he has, say, Evil Miscreant kept in the opening hand, now he has a way to enable it by backstabbing it.
Yeah, or if he has Backstab Edwin, Shadow Step Edwin, for example.
Yeah, that sounds really heavy. I mean, that's what, 8/8 Edwin?
Yep.
Although, if your opponent just keeps it on 1 Ray of Frost per turn, it feels like you invested so many cards and you're stuck hoping that the top of your deck is going to be good.
He's considering Shadow Step later on for different outs, but also the potential that Spirit of the Shark in the hand offers as well to make Edwin bigger later on.
I don't mind that either. You get 4 damage plus the follow-up.
Yep.
That does give Hunterace a little bit more breathing room, though.
Yeah, that's the reason that I would kind of argue against this play. I definitely see his line, and he could probably convince me, but to me, that halftime scavenger on 4 is quite an important aspect of the way this mage deck is built. So if you made it an 8/8 immediately, you could stop that coming down. You'd force the Ray of Frost right off the bat.
Fair enough. But now it's 10-10. And this game could end very quickly if Hunterace doesn't find ways to deal with this 10-10.
Yeah.
He does have Frostbolts, I believe, on the far left. And the moment he picks up Conjurer's Calling is another opportunity for him to shut down this 10-10.
Yeah, it doesn't often pay out too huge. It's never a play you're happy to make when you have to Conjurer's Calling your Edwin, because they're still getting like 6/6 of stats on the other side of the board after you Conjurer's Calling a lot of the time.
Yep. Hopefully the halftime scavenger can help Hunterace clean up that, but for now, Seiko doing an excellent job putting him in an uncomfortable spot, given that his hand was a little bit awkward, right? It was like a full-costed Vendetta, it was a backside with no targets, and now Seiko's launched a very relevant offensive that can just end the series within the next couple of turns. Three Mountain Giant. Very vulnerable to a walk the plank scenario.
It is.
What to do?
So I wonder if we'll see Hunterace extend further. Of course, he can pair the Frostbolt with this, which I think he's forced to do. There's potential to use Coin to get Sorcerer's Apprentice down in the same position, just to have a little more board presence in the case of a Walk the Plank coming down.
Right.
With the Blink Fox, he can SI Vendetta and hold on to his Walk the Plank for future and still deal with this Mountain Giant.
Right. The Spirit of the Shark coming in huge again.
This guy's tough.
And this is a really important thing to learn as well, is that just because you have the perfect removal for a situation doesn't mean you have to just go and jam it. That Walk the Plank is like universally flexible. It will almost always kill a huge minion. You are not always going to get to use SI7 Agent to kill a huge minion. So using the kind of difficult to use options now and having the universal option for later is quite often a more powerful way of doing it.
Yes. And, you know, speaking of universal options here, Ray of Frost, one of the most flexible cards in Mage, and now Hunterace has options to utilize Banana and Ray of Frost. Even can throw in a Zilliax, should he want to clear off even more of the board. I don't know if that's absolutely crucial in this position, given that he is going to have a little bit of armor. He can even develop the second halftime Scavenger, which I'm probably in favor of right now.
Yeah, second Scavenger seems like the right way to go about it. There were various ways that he could look at actually just killing the Edwin outright this turn, but I think it just concedes too much tempo in order to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? Hunterace just wants to stall because there's a lot of cards being used by Seiko to develop, and he also lost one of his best cards to refill his hand in the Spear of the Shark.
Right.
And, you know, Seiko's hand is actually looking fairly awkward. He picked up Jan'alai, which does not synergize with the Rogue hero power, contrary to what you might think at first glance. Like, oh, I've attacked 8 times in this game.
It's a travesty, honestly.
It kind of is, although, you know, I feel like it really doesn't make much sense if you think about it.
No, it absolutely is correct the way it works right now, but, you know, it doesn't mean a man can't dream.
Yeah.
To be fair, I guess Rogue has enough privilege right now. It doesn't need more. It's fine. It's fine.
So then, you know, Seiko really would not want to use Walk the Plank in this position. However, do you think he's forced to make sure that the game isn't out of reach because of the halftime Scavenger being buffed?
I feel like it, yeah, it does kind of lead back to that position I was talking about before, where he's kind of given himself the freedom, right? If he'd have gone the other way around, gone Walk the Plank on the previous turn, he would have developed less pressure, and he would have been in a position with his Spirit of the Shark dead, where he'd be really struggling to deal with a 4-6. So even though the Vendetta ended up killing a smaller minion, you can kind of see the payout for Seiko in that position.
Well, Hunterace has a bunch of cheap spells and a Sorcerer's Apprentice. Magic Trick could pull up some big plays here. Nice Conjure's Calling. And he's a Khadgar.
Yep. As I mentioned, that is a 15% out. He finds it.
Right. I mean, there was other good options too for Hunterace, but Conjure's Calling was probably the best.
That is above and beyond the other options, though, for sure.
Yeah, HS Replay, I believe, put out an infographic one time to show the best Magic Trick cards that you could discover, and Conjure's Calling was by far the most dominant card. And surprisingly, some cards that have higher impact that you might think, like Frostbolt, wasn't actually that good.
Really?
It was. I think it was interesting, you know, and it could be the fact that, you know, people will play Magic Trick as desperation as opposed to what they need to do. But Conjure's Calling, just to show you, is absolutely ridiculous with the amount of tempo that you can get. He gets Steel Rager, which allows him to trade immediately onto the board. And it's going to go once more with another Conjure's Calling. He gets Houndmaster Shaw, is that right?
He must have, yeah. Yeah.
Wow!
Yes, Casper, yes, I know.
And Archmage Fargoth!
What is happening?
Hunterace can't even believe what's happening right now.
Magic Trick, Ray of Frost? Okay, well, Ray of Frost.
Well,
all right. And then
has another one? He gets a banana.
Okay. All right, calm down. Everything's fine. Don't worry. The world hasn't ended. We're good.
You sure?
Yes.
10, 12, 18, 19 damage showing.
Dude, that's so many unlikely things off 2 Conjurer's Calling. There's only like 6 rush minions to begin with of 4-drop, and then he hits one of those, and then he gets like 2 of the absolute best like special effect 4-drops that you can get off Conjurer's Calling right after that as well.
Dude, he can play Arcane Intellect and draw 4 cards next turn. At least, right? Because he draws the 5th off the top. That's crazy.
Well, he has 2 Vargoths. So if he like...
Sorry, 4 additional cards.
Right, yeah. So if he just rips the Arcane Intellect and then just plays minions, he's drawing 6 that turn.
If he has board space for it.
Yeah.
I mean, good on Seiko to try and remain calm, but this is anything but a calm scenario for him.
Yeah, obviously we're excited about it, but you got to give some sympathy over to the man who is 1 game away from a position where he's fighting for a spot at BlizzCon against Fino, and then that outcome hits you in the face. Like, your heart has to go out to that man in this position, as much as we love to see it just to see cool stuff happen.
And now Hunterace is going to refill his hand. Yep. Develop the Ziliax because he sees that Seiko's taking an aggressive stance.
And his Ziliax has Rush because of the Howlmaster shot.
Oh, that's just broken. Ziliax with Rush? Get out of here! Ziliax had Rush. I'd put it in all my decks.
Yeah, you'd play it in like every class. It'd just be the best 5-drop.
Houndmaster Shaw, you know, just one of those cards that needs to be killed immediately along with Vargoth. In fact, we're seeing like the entire arsenal of 4-mana minions that need to be dealt with immediately. Outside of like Necro Mechanic for Hunter. Look at the absurdity! He just draws all of his good cards.
I feel like with each passing day, like we keep seeing more Mage against Rogue. It's one of the most common matchups in Specialists in Grandmasters. And I feel like on each passing day, the current day says hold my beer to the previous day. Like they just have to outdo the ridiculousness that we see out of this matchup. There's so much random outcomes out of the Conjurer's Calling, so much created by stuff that comes from you know, the Rogue Burgle package, that it really does open things up. And honestly, I personally think it's a very good thing because